G.I. Joe deck building game, published by Renegade Games. And right there you have the topic and the main mechanic. This is a deck building game, a cooperative deck building game in which players will control teams of Joes and Janes going against Cobra and performing different missions. The game is cooperative and can also be played solitaire. The game has a proper solo mode. I played the game solitaire, but not using that mode. I played the game as a two-player solo, meaning I had two decks. I played exactly as if I was two different players, and I ran two decks. And I liked it that way. That's the way I like. That's the way I play most war games, so two-player solo, and it also works. Turns out with cooperative deck building games. So G.I. Joe. This is a story world that I know not from the toys. I didn't play with those toys back in the day, but I know it from the comic books. I read the Marvel ones. I read some of the IDW ones. There was a movie that came out a couple of years ago. I haven't seen the recent Snake Eye movie. So. It's an interesting, fun world with Joes and Janes and vehicles, and you're going against villains that are going to try to do bad stuff. Basically, the point of the game is to defeat this deck. At the beginning of the game, you'll choose one or two main stories, main adventures. Each has a pretty thick deck of mission cards, and following the procedure you will use only some of these to create the actual story deck that you will defeat. So you have two main storylines and each has a lot of variety in it. Your job is to defeat these missions, so you will perform actions to attack the mission, then you'll see if you defeat it or if you failed. If you successfully beat a mission, it goes under that token there. If you fail to do so, it goes under that one. And then, of course, there are different effects, penalties, or bonuses that happen for successfully completing or failing a mission. You also keep record of those because later there may be effects based on how many missions you failed or completed. If you're able to defeat the final mission of the mission deck or the story deck, you win the game. That's it. Pretty simple, huh? But there are many things that may happen that will cause you to lose. You lose the game if the main deck where you get resources from is exhausted and you need to draw a card. This is a line where you will buy the cards that you will add to your decks. There will be game effects that will also place Cobra Battalion on these cards. If they're all covered, then you also lose the game. Also, there is a Cobra tracker, a threat tracker. Of course there is. And the game effects will cause this token to go up. Hopefully game effects will also cause that to go down. There will be a sense of mounting tension because different effects will be triggered based on where that token is. If that token reaches the top of the threat track, also you lose the game. So this is the general idea. You gotta defeat the mission deck before any of those conditions happen. You start with a deck of fairly unexciting cards, as it's normal in deck building games. The fun is to turn this deck into a mighty, powerful killing machine. You're gonna have some Joes and you're gonna have some other effects. Each player also will have a leader, so that's interesting because the decks are not all the same. Each deck is slightly different because you will have a leader that comes in two flavors represented by two cards. The basic version, and then later you can spend recruitment points to promote that leader, and so you will replace the basic card with the cooler and more powerful card. So I like the fact that each has a slightly different starting deck. So shuffle, 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 and during the and then, well, it's time to take your turn. Now, during your turn, you will have your hand of cards, and suppose that I got Scarlet in my hand at the beginning and other stuff. That's an important one. And so suppose that I have my hand of cards here. And the idea is that each turn, you will first choose if you want to start a mission. Then, after you perform a mission, or more than one, if you can, you can use recruitment points to buy a card from that line, and that ends your turn, and the next player goes. Once every player has taken their turn, a round is over, which will trigger several effects, so there are end of round effects specifically. I'm going to tell you only about the general rules because, again, as you can imagine, in a game of this kind, a lot will happen based on individual effects, and maximizing the synergies, creating those effects, defending against a ton of negative effects from the enemies. That's what the game is about. So, mission. In the first phase of your turn, you can go on missions. There will be several kinds of missions available. There is, again, a main story mission that will be active. There. Incidentally, the deck with the story missions that you're trying to defeat is face up. So as you have that one, that is the one that's available, you also see the next one that will hit you, and so that's super important. There may be some Cobra commanders that have also been placed in play by effects, and sometimes there are negative things. Sometimes they protect the main mission, so to speak, meaning they make it harder. Again, those Cobra battalions that will cover your cards there, they also count as missions. Game effects will place what's called side missions in your personal deck, and so those will be in your personal area. All of these cards, they count as missions. We also have complication cards, very cool, that are placed on the story deck, on the active story mission. And again, game effects may give you multiple complications. Those will be revealed when you attack a mission. If a mission has complication cards, they will be revealed when you attack the mission. And so you will resolve the effect, and that means that at the last second there may be things happening. But whatever the mission is, wherever it is, the mission that you're attacking, the procedure is always the same, which is, first you gotta get there. It's G.I. Joe, so vehicles are very important. The franchise was created around a line of toys, and they wanted to sell not just the dolls for boys, which we call action figures, but we know that's the other description is what that is about. So action figures and also vehicles. So it's all about, the vehicles are very important. You start the game, the team starts the game with the vamp that goes in the hangar area. Later, as the game progresses, you will probably want to add more of those there. So first, you will have to choose a vehicle. Now, vehicles are of three kinds. There is land, air, and naval. And the missions have a symbol. So, for example, that is a land mission. I don't know if you can see the tank there. Now, you can use any vehicle to go anywhere. You can use land to go to naval to go to air, anything. However, if the symbol of the vehicle that you're using matches the one of the mission, then you'll get a bonus because there are effects on the vehicle that will be triggered there. Not in the basic VAMP. The VAMP just allows you to go there, doesn't have anything special, but again, later better vehicles may give you better bonuses if you can match the icon of the vehicle with the mission. Also, the vehicle you choose will tell you the number of Joes and Janes that you can bring to that mission. At that point, you will commit your Joes and Janes to the mission. Suppose I'm using the vamp, I can use up to 4, and suppose in my hand I only happen to have 3 this round here. I can ask for other people to help me. That's not just about the number. It also may be that other people in my team, other players, have Joes and Janes that specialize in whatever the mission has, because the missions have code words. For example, if I'm trying to defeat the Baroness, stealth and tracker are particularly good. If I'm going for this mission here, repel Cobra's attack, marksman and martial arts are preferred. And to give you a sense, indeed, with the except the basic Joes, they don't have any specific abilities. Leaders and better Joes you buy later, they have some of those code words and they have a number there. That's the number of dice that they provide if they're using that in that specific mission. And so, for example, Rock and Roll has 4 in Recon and 3 Marksman. So see, he'd be pretty good here if I'm going against that mission. He'd be better than Scarlet, who is good in martial arts. And Muskrat has 3 in Stealth. Hawk has Marksman and Stealth, and so on and so forth. So try to match, and the sum will give you Wild. That means that value, that factor applies in any mission. They provide wild dice. So suppose that now I'm going on a mission, and yes, suppose that somebody from the deck decided to commit recon vehicles. Where's the card that I just showed you? That would have worked pretty well. Of course, now I can't find it, because that's how it works. Perfect. So we're going on a mission that has the marksman keyword right there. And these are the cards that I'm using, and I'm using the vamp, so up to 4 Joes and Janes can join me, and somebody decides to commit that card there. It's a marksman mission, so by committing this one, that provides a value of 2. These values indicate the number of dice that you can roll for that mission. So marksman going on marksman 2, going on marksman provides me with 2. Any Joe or Jane that you add to a mission that does not have matching keywords will give you a value of 1. And so that's the total amount of dice that this team going on that mission is providing. Effects will add things, hopefully. You roll these dice and you count successes. This is 1 success or 1 hit. This is another one. This is 2. So basically, on each die, you have 2 single successes, 1 side showing a double success, and 3 failure. You count the total number of successes. You may try to alter that using special effects like, booyah, I play that card out of nowhere, hopefully. And if my total number of successes equals or exceeds that number, the difficulty of the mission, I succeeded, otherwise I failed. What happens at that point, again, changes on the kind of mission. If I'm attacking the leaders here, then I usually just discard it. That's what I want to get them out of the way. If I succeed here, again, there will be the reward or penalty. For example, here succeeding decreases the level of the threat on this track, but failing increases it. I didn't reveal the complication, but again, remember that's something that you need to... perfect, look at that. Booyah, the last second, turns out that this mission was more difficult than I expected. So that's still the general idea. Players will cooperate to create teams that will, as much as possible, fit the mission. And then you see how many dice that team provides, roll them, possibly re-roll them, and see if you failed or succeeded. Interesting. And after that, after you complete or attempt to complete a mission, or even more than one, if you have enough team members, then you can buy cards from that line, and that's something similar to what you've seen in other deck building games, which is you look at how many recruitment points your card generate. This is how much they generate, and then you buy cards, and the big number here is the cost. Something important, when you buy a card, it goes straight on top of your deck, not in the discard pile. Not many deck building games do that. This one does, of course. I just said that. Kanzumi God does that. It's not super common, but it's something that I like very much. So that's the general flow. Play your turn by attempting missions and or recruiting new cards. Everybody takes a turn, resolve end of round effects, and continue like this until you meet a victory condition or you meet a condition that causes you to lose the game. The idea of a deck building game where you're not just counting points and buying lands, but you are creating powerful attacks, going out there in missions to destroy things. It goes back to Thunderstone, even to Resident Evil, the deck building game, and then the legendary system added more of a sense of story, different chapters of different missions that you had to complete one after the other, and they create an overarching narrative. And so G.I. Joe deck building game adds to that family, definitely belongs to that lineage, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's just the ancestors that this game had. But that doesn't, of course, reduce the originality. It belongs to that lineage, but it is its own thing. First, because it's nice to see this topic that I think works very well for a deck building game with an adventures, with a story-oriented bent. Because, well, it's about these Joes and Janes that start not particularly strong, but then they develop new weapons, and they train, and they acquire new people, and yes, the vehicles. Not just thematically, but I think that mechanically the vehicles really add to the experience. They add another interesting layer, because the vehicles, and this is unusual in deck building games, they really add to the sense of community, which again, it's very important if you're gonna have a cooperative deck building game. You're gonna have you have cooperative games out there that are almost multiplayer solo. I do my thing, you do your thing, and let's try not to lose. But I think the best ones are the ones that create synergies, like Pandemic. You really have to work together. The vehicles, which is unusual in deck building games and even in cooperative deck building games, do not belong to any player specifically. When you buy them, they go into the hangar, which is the shared area. When somebody needs them, they take them. Of course, hopefully with everybody, being in agreement with that. In my case, I'm okay. I play the game solo. So the player takes them, they start the mission, they use it for the mission, and then they go in their discard pile. So you do not know exactly when they'll come back. That represents the time it takes to refit them after, all the bullets that they took or whatever other crazy things Cobra made them go through. And so, but then when they come back from a player's discard pile, then draw deck, then they go back to the hangar and maybe another player that takes them. So as they go around, I think they really help, not just have that extra interesting element that you don't know when they'll be available again, but sort of really create that cooperative sense, really show you that everybody's working together. And again, the fact that somebody may start a mission and other people will want to join that mission is also particularly important. Another interesting elements there, mechanic, is that if you use the Joes in your own mission, they still stay in your play area, and you can use them that very turn still to buy stuff, the recruitment points. Yes, they can multitask, go on a mission and then recruit somebody. But players that are using their Joes and Janes out of turn, adding to other players' missions, those Joes and Janes are discarded, so you will start your turn with fewer of them, which again seems to be an incentive against what I was saying, which is like, oh, well, it's better if I use my own so I can use them twice. If I use them out of turn, I cannot use them to recruit. I start with fewer cards. But it's still interesting. It's still because this guy or gal may really be powerful in that mission out of turn. So it's still a good decision, an interesting decision that I'm making there. And then you have cards that will help you help other people. Oh, if you have 3 cards or fewer, boom, use this game effect that I'm using for you so you can draw more cards. So there are some really interesting synergies here in which the game encourages people to work together, makes it non-trivial, because there is a cost to be faced by playing out of turn, but still makes it very useful under the right circumstances. And there is just a special kind of satisfaction in seeing a really difficult mission there and working together, maybe planning over a turn or two to really build the right team, the correct team there that gives the best chances. The fact that the cards that you buy go on top of your deck, again, that's very important because it gives players, I believe, more agency than you have in a lot of other deck building games. So definitely is a game that rewards good planning, rewards strategy, rewards synergy and cooperation. And that, of course, is balanced out by the fact that there is a random element. There are 2 layers. I think the game again mitigates the randomness that comes from your deck. In fact, in the fact that these decks they don't get too thick. You have a decent control over your deck, and some players really love that. But that's balanced by the fact that you need that because those die rolls, well, you can have a crazy good die roll and then you'll have a crazy bad die roll. And of course, over the course of a game, you will have both, which again means things will tend to happen on a curve. And again, there will be randomness, but I feel that the game still rewards good gameplay. And again, it rewards you with a really strong sense of story. You really have the sense of these actions taking place before your eyes through the cards, through the effects. And so this Joe is coming in and using that crazy weapon. Oh no, but on the way to the mission, that terrible things happen. But wait, boom, had this other card that can address that. Darn it, the die rolls cause something terrible to happen. Can we fix that? Etc., etc., etc. You do have the sense of an over-the-top, crazy action, full of plot twists, full of incredible fun stuff, which is precisely, of course, what you want in a game with this topic. So G.I. Joe deck building game. This is a game that I would recommend warmly to players that like deck building games. You played many deck building games probably if you are passionate about the hobby, but this is a game that has a strong theme, a strong topic. It re-implements well-known mechanics in a way that is very strong and very effective and results in very interesting and exciting situations. So I definitely had a good time playing G.I. Joe deck building game, even if you don't have players to play it with. It works very well solo, at least in the version that I play. I'm pretty sure the proper solo version is solid also because everything else that I've seen in this game is well designed and well developed. So I'm very happy with it and I'm confident that that version is strong also. G.I. Joe deck building game, a lot of fun.